It's the Almost Perfect Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Ha, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we are learning from Caryn Welby-Solomon. Now, Caryn is an entertainment journalist and podcaster who used to work for Cosmo and worked her way all up to the position of being the entertainment writer until unfortunately lockdown hit and Cosmo folded. Now Caryn is finding herself in the freelance life, but she's actually making it work for herself really, really well. She's picked up a number of different high profile publications that she writes for pretty regularly. She has a regular newsletter that she puts out, and she's got a podcast called What's IGN Crushing On, which is steadily gaining steam. And I've been very impressed just with her rise over the last year and didn't even realize that it came from the lockdown, that it was a necessity-based thing, that she had to hustle, that she had to make all this stuff happen for herself. And I'm going to let her tell you the whole story about that in just a little bit. Thank you for tuning in. This is a listener-supported podcast. That means that it is brought to you by you, and you can support it by going to patreon.com/almostperfect. Alternatively, you can also buy a mug from me. They're almost perfect mugs. They've got the logo on them. They are done by the Print Room Durban, and they cost 100 Rand each. 10 Rand from each sale goes to Sasonke. Sasonke is an organization that is working to decriminalize sex work. They are for sex workers, by sex workers, and you can check them out over at sasonke.org.za. So how are you living? How are you taking the news that we're back in lockdown level 3? Personally, it literally makes no fucking difference to my life at the moment. It doesn't bug me, but I know other people are freaking out and stressing out, and yeah, whatever, man. It is what it is, and we're gonna deal with this shit however we can. Our government is inept, we know that, but our population also seems to be suicidal. So I don't know, man. I don't fucking know. I'm just chilling at home. I'm just doing this thing, coming here, talking into the microphone, staring at the squiggly lines going up and down. I've also picked up some work recently, which has been really cool. It's been fun. Not fun, but it's been a way to pass the time, and it's been cool to challenge myself a little bit with some different work. I've been doing some content writing for a estate company, essentially. So a little bit out of my wheelhouse, and that's always cool to do. It's kind of something we actually chat about on this podcast coming up in just a little bit. I've also been reading a lot again, which has been cool. I've been reading Status Anxiety by Alain de Botton, which was a book that Lisa Gola actually recommended in his podcast. And it helps to just remind you that what matters in society, like all the status signifiers and symbols and stuff like that, have changed so much over time. And yeah, it's not necessarily something to get too caught up in if you don't want to, I guess. I mean, I haven't got through the whole book. I don't know if that's the moral of the story at the end. What else I need to tell you? This weekend, we are recording another episode of Strongly Disagree. This is a podcast that I think has 2 episodes up on the internet. It's the, It's the love child, I guess, of, not the love child. It's not the predecessor. It's it's the ancestor. There we go. It is the ancestor to, no, it's, what is the fucking term? It's the baby. It's the lineage. It's the legacy. There we go. We got it. It is the legacy of the Live from the Winston podcast, which is a podcast that Neil Green and I used to do back in the day. And yeah, we've started it up again. We're doing it now with Mojak Lohoko. And that is something you can look forward to really soon. We're going to be recording that over the weekend. It's a podcast where each of us brings a topic that we've got to defend against the other two. So I'm excited for that. It's going to be quite an exciting, fun just good time. I think I love Neil so much. I've got so much love for Mo as well. It's been cool getting to know both those dudes over the years, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun in that podcast. So check that out. You will be able to check that out on the website. I will post it on the Almost Perfect Media social media pages. So go check that out. I've got to thank some people. I've got to give some shout outs. Firstly, I've got to thank 2 new patrons over at patreon.com/almost perfect. We have now gotten to over $100 a month, which is kind of a big deal for me. Like, I'm really fucking stoked about that. We're getting there. It's taken nearly 3 years, 101 episodes, but we got $100 per month coming into this vibe as a revenue stream. And I will continue to make more merch and do various different things, utilize that money well to grow the Almost Perfect brand. But I want to thank Thomas McWilliam, an old friend of mine, used to be the singer for a band called Gogo Bronco, also a wonderful solo artist, amazing lyricist, and someone who you may hear on this podcast in the future. Thank you very much, Tom, for signing up to the Patreon. And thank you as well to Simp Slayer. They did let me know their real name in the DMs, but I don't know if they want it coming out. So shout outs to Simp Slayer as well, who found us through YouTube. And that was a lot of work putting all of the episodes up on YouTube, but I feel like it was worthwhile. Now it's time for the shout out section. This is for the people at the titular titles tier. This is the $10 tier. It is the top tier, and I will stop alliterating now. Anyway, shout outs to Neil Green, who is the key grip and also an ex-guest of this podcast, also someone who I'm going to be podcasting with this weekend, and just a wonderful, wonderful human being. Shout outs to Caryn Welby-Solomon, who is the Almost Perfect hedge fund manager. Shout outs to Kath Jenkin, who is the inevitable ruler of the universe, and Queen Swiftie. I don't know if you can be the ruler of the universe and Queen Swiftie, because wouldn't Taylor Swift then be the ruler of the universe? Like, how can you be a Queen Swiftie and then Taylor Swift is beneath you? So I'm just saying there's some contradictions there. Shout outs to Karan Chetty, who is the assistant to the regional manager. Shout outs to Chief Sales Officer of Subtle Heresies in the Greater Overberg region, Rousseau. I want to let you know that saying Officer of Subtle Heresies fucks with me from time to time. So big ups to you for that. Shout out to Stephen Olivier, who is the executive producer. Shout out to our spiritual advisor, Vishendra Naidu. Shout out to our king, that is, of course, Julian. I don't know who's got dominion and higher reign when it comes to the monarchy in the Almost Perfect Kingdom here. I don't know. You guys are going to have to fight that one out. Shout out as well to our pantsless weasel. That is, of course, Caryn Love. And shout out lastly to our anonymous benefactor. Once again, if you can figure out who the anonymous benefactor is, I will send you a pack of Almost Perfect stickers. This week's clue is they really like Charlie XCX. So hit me up at bob@almostperfect.co.za if you can figure out who the anonymous benefactor is. And yes, we've got Almost Perfect stickers printed by the print room, but you can only get those if you sign up to the Almost Perfect Patreon. So that's it. That's all the shilling. That is all the selling. That is all the grifting that I got to get out of the way. Here comes the Almost Perfect podcast with Caryn Welby-Solomon. So how are you living, Caryn?
I'm good. Well, I mean, I feel like I can't complain too much. I'm healthy. I'm alive. This year's hasn't been as bad for me as it's been for most people. So I suppose I'm good.
Yeah, I think it has you have to have that qualifier of it's like hasn't been as bad for me as it's been for most people, because I think it's been pretty bad for everyone, and it's just
Mm,
varying degrees of just how bad things have been.
yeah, exactly.
But how have you managed things? Because you seem to be someone who is I wouldn't say constantly on the grind, but you seem to be constantly working, constantly producing work for a number of different publications. So like I assume you've managed to at least keep things going fairly decently in these times.
Yeah, so about a month into like lockdown, I lost my job. And
Okay.
I was like, I did not know what to do next. Because I was working at Cosmo, and I thought, I knew magazines were on the decline, but I knew, like, I figured I had another year left before things really started to like hit the grind. But like COVID just sped everything up. So I took like a week to just wail about it and cry about my lost dreams. And then I just had to, like, I had bills to pay, so I had to start putting feelers out there. And I'd never done freelance properly before. So I just, like, messaged people that I knew, because I'd worked like a couple of jobs before I went to Cosmo, and just like try to apply for as many things as possible, and just, try to keep working because I had to. And for the most part, like, I'm very lucky, as in, I haven't been like coining it, like I'm not living the good life, but I've been able to pay my bills every month, which is all that I'd been asking for.
Yeah, the transition to freelance, especially if you're used to the other grind, the grind of going
Mm,
into an office and like working with the same people over and over again, covering the same kind of content. Like, you get into, I guess, a flow with things and you get used to the way things are. And then now all of a sudden, everything is just being turned upside down. And you have to really hustle and you have to lean on your contacts. And how did you manage to actually, yeah, do that transition? Was like, I know you mentioned that you called a few people, but what was the actual situation like? Did you start sending pictures? Did you send people, your portfolio of work that you had before? Obviously, working at Cosmo is going to give you a bit of a leg up. So, how did you find that process of actually finding work as a freelancer after going as someone who had been doing it full time?
So I had worked at Media 24 for like good, like 5, 6 years before I moved to Cosmo. So
Okay.
I like established contacts there, and I just messaged them and I was like, "Hey guys, I'm like looking for some freelance work," and then they set me up, and I was sorted on that end. And then it was just like I like went through Facebook groups, like freelance Facebook groups. I checked LinkedIn. I searched on Twitter for like looking for freelance, and then I just sent pictures. I sent, you know, some of my portfolio out depending on what I was pitching for. And most of my pitches, I never even got an answer back from editors, like like
Yeah.
most of them. And I had to be okay with that, because I just had to move. Like, I didn't have time to be sad. It's like, okay, rework it, try again next time. And that's just like how I had to be, because the person that I'm quite a sensitive person. So like, if it was a time when, I'd really been working on this for ages and I sent it out and the person said no, I know I would have like been upset about it for months. But I didn't have the time to be upset. I had to try something else, go someplace else. And in that way, it was beneficial for me, because I learned to kind of deal with that rejection that I couldn't handle before.
Yeah, I totally get that because I've been in similar situations over the years, because I've been a freelancer for a long time. But that rejection is something that I struggle with so much, even to this day. It's like it's so frustrating when you send stuff out and you just don't get a reply and you're just like, but I know I can do this thing, I know I've got the
Mm,
skills, look at my CV, look at what I've got on offer. But at the same time, we're in such a competitive environment, and I think that's also what's so impressive about what you've done. And like, I think in a way, and what you're basically saying here is, the lockdown forced you into this position, but by doing it, it's allowed you almost to create your own brand of sorts and to become more of someone who is no longer just a part of like a cog in the wheel, but is actually actively, seeking things out and actively going, cool, this is what I like in terms of, I'm
mm.
presuming here, like in terms of TV and this and that. And now that you've got those connections, you're pitching those things and able to build stuff around who you are, as well as that fits in with these different publications.
Yeah. No, exactly. Before like before I was freelance, when I was at Media 24, I was just known as someone who tweeted about series a lot. And that was just to like the few 100 followers that I had. And then when I went to Cosmo, I was known for being Cosmo's entertainment writer. And for the first time, I feel like I am myself. So I get to watch what I want to watch. I get to, talk the way I want to speak without any kind of like brand voice. It's my
Yeah.
voice, everything. So everything feels so much more authentic. And it has given me this opportunity because I feel like I'm more myself now than I'd been at any of these publications. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, it's been because that's the thing. I've gotten to know you now more through Twitter, and then also I've seen like you even inspired me to like restart up my newsletter and actually try and stick to it for a while because I enjoy like the fun that you have with your newsletter and how you manage to do things in your own voice and your own style, but then also do things with other people, like with other publications and that. But at the same time, it's this constant thing of you genuinely like love what you do. Like I can see it, like you genuinely enjoy covering the topics that you cover and the shows and movies that you cover. So how do you get into entertainment writing? Like, so you said you started in News 24 back in the day. Do you have like a journalism background? And how does this start? Because I assume obviously you have a lifelong love of TV from when you were young. Maybe like me, you grew up watching TV as like a bit of a, for me, well, I know for myself, TV was very much my babysitter a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I actually think the TV thing came first. I think I probably like imagination and stories and things, and I loved reading as a child and TV. I'm the youngest of four, and I'm like a lot lamaki. So I basically say TV raised me.
Okay.
And my parents, by the time I came around, my parents were like, "Cheers, we done with this whole parenting thing now." No shame, they're very nice people, but still, it's the truth. They will agree with me. But TV basically raised me, and I always had this love of storytelling that came from that. And I didn't know what I wanted to do within TV. Like I thought I wanted to be an actor, and I did drama for about 12 years at school, and I
Oh
knew it just
wow.
wasn't for me.
Really? Why did you think it wasn't for you? Because that was actually something I was going to ask you later on. Was like is being on stage in front of the camera something you want to do? So why do you think it's something you don't want to do, or why have you come to that realization?
Well, I think I enjoy it, but I'm a very shy person. So
Okay.
the like I was so the nerves overtook me every single time. Like when I'm on stage, I'm fine. I'm like chilled. I'm in the moment. But that the pain of getting onto the stage was just too much for me. I do enjoy it, but I just it didn't feel like that was the path I was supposed to take. Like I was actually speaking to my friend
Okay.
and I was saying I wouldn't mind doing like community type theater again, but I don't know if I would ever want to be like a a soapy actress or anything like that. But but yeah, I thought about that. I thought about it, but no, it wasn't for me. And I'm not technical enough to do like directing and that kind of things. So when I was about 17 or something, the E channel came to South Africa, that E Entertainment,
Yeah.
and I saw that literally all these people were doing was talking about movies, TVs, and celebs. And I'm like, this is what I was supposed to do. Because this is my passion and everything. So I just worked on becoming a better writer, and I worked hard in English and history, and I got extra work from my teacher. I just wanted to be a better writer. And I think I was okay. I feel like I had the imagination, but I don't think I was, top. So that's essentially what I worked on. And I always say that I feel like writing is a skill. Like obviously people have like talent and that kind of stuff, but like talent's not enough. You have to be constantly working on it. So yeah, so I feel like that's something I worked on. And then I studied film and media, English film and media.
Okay. So you've like always known that this is like the area that you want to be in.
Yes. Yeah, I've always sort of known. And I'm quite a determined person. So if I know where I want to go, I'm gonna do whatever I can to get there. I studied that, but I couldn't get a job in journalism because there's such a limited amount of jobs here.
Yeah.
So I worked a bit in like PR and marketing. And then I got a job at News 24 Nigeria, just doing
Oh wow.
straight news for them, just content producing news. And I thought, okay, this is a foot in the door. And I worked there for a couple of years. And then I joined their brand writing team just so that I could learn to write different types of content. And then I'd write for different brands. And like one day I'll write a food article, one day I'll write a finance article, one day like a education article. And then I started writing entertainment more because like if a entertainment brand sponsored content on News 24, that's what I would write. So it was like an exercise, like probably like a 3-year exercise for me just to become a better writer in any topic.
Yeah, I mean that's great practice. That is really good practice.
Yeah, and all that time I was just trying to look for an entertainment news job. And I could never, I either, it was always bad timing, or like I could, because it's so limited, there's such a limited amount of jobs here in South Africa. Like I feel like I know most of the entertainment reporters now.
I was gonna say
And
it's such a closed circuit and it's so hard to get into it because you need to like
yeah,
get the favor of like certain editors essentially. Like and some people have those ins because of connections or because they go to the right like there's lots of different conferences and things like that that you can find
yeah.
yourself in the right rooms with these people and you can like get a step ahead. But for you weren't able to do that. You were doing it through just trying to from News 24 like just get the experience and then just what sending stuff out to other people or what were you doing?
Yeah, so I found like there are a couple of like American websites where you can write entertainment news, and but you write for free. And
Okay.
I was doing so when I was working at News 24 Nigeria, it wasn't really hard work. So like it was like bare minimum work. So I could just do that. And then I could write my articles for these people. And that actually benefited me so much because I got to do international like interviews for the first time. I got to I learn how to review like TV shows week by week. I got to do features, and I got feedback from people, and it was beneficial, even though like I'm not a fan of doing free work. But back then I think because I had money from my job, and my job wasn't a lot of work, so I could do it. So that's how I kind of got experience in entertainment writing.
That is definitely the trick I think to like building your career like in anything is finding
Mm,
another small thing that you can do that just pays you like and doesn't take up as much of your time as like some things like you do take up way too much time to like
yeah.
actually give you like extra time to like work on the thing you want to do. But if you can get that balance of like also it is helping you in a little way, the News 24 thing, it's is writing, it is practice,
Mm.
but it's bringing in this income and now you've got all the spare time to actually like focus on the thing that you really want to do. And through that now from there, how did you get to actually writing for, well, where did you go from there?
So okay, so this is like the detour of my career. So I
Okay.
left News 24 and I went to this other company, which I'm not going to say, but like I was doing basically travel writing, and I hated it. It was such a toxic environment.
Okay,
And
please,
it
okay,
was
please elaborate there. Why do you say that? Because travel writing's this thing that like so many people aspire to because of like Instagram and because you get to go to all these different places and like write about these wonderful weekends away. So what's so toxic about it?
so okay, the travel writing itself was not toxic. It was a Cape Town based company, so it was about places in Cape Town.
Okay,
But yeah, the writing itself wasn't. The work environment was toxic, and for the
okay,
first time I was getting sick because of work, which was weird. Because like even though I wasn't earning a lot of money at Media 24, I still had sort of a healthy work environment, so I wasn't kind of used to this. But it did force me to, I had to apply for any job that I could, and I got like all these different interviews. I chatted with all these people, and one of the interviews I had was with the Cosmo editor. And
okay.
then what happened there was that we had this interview and we had this great chat, and it wasn't even for like an entertainment job. It was like for another job there. But then they had to do like they had retrenchments after that, so they didn't hire anyone for that role. But anyway, I left the toxic company and I went back to Media 24, to my old job. And I worked at that old job for like another 3 months because it was a contract. And then Cosmo called me and they were like, we have this entertainment reported job opening, and like Holly, the editor, remembered you from your interview and how passionate you were about entertainment. Would
Oh
you
wow.
consider like meeting with us? And so I met with them, and then I joined the team within like a month or so.
Damn, that's awesome. How did that feel though? Because like after all these years, after all this time, you've studied, you've done everything, and you've like ground away like just to try and get to this point where you are an on-staff entertainment writer. So how did that feel?
it, it felt extremely validating, because like, you want to feel as if you're working towards something. And like every like pushback and every wrong decision I've made has always felt like, I always feel like things hit me harder than most people, because I'm extremely, as I think I've told you this, I said this
You
to you
set
before the
it
interview, I'm
up.
like extremely hard on myself.
Yeah.
So it was so validating. And especially because I didn't, for the first time, for someone who's been applying for jobs consistently, like I've never turned off my Indeed job alerts like ever in my career. And like, for someone who's been applying all these years, and then to have like to not even apply for a job and to be called in for it was wild for me, and it was the job I'd always wanted. And yeah, it was so, yeah, I don't even know anymore. It was validating.
Oh man, I can only imagine. And what was the actual experience of working there like? Because I've heard good things about Cosmo.
Yeah, well, the team I had when I joined, the team was like flipping amazing. Just like Holly, the editor, had just picked like the perfect people in every role, and everybody just loved the magazine and they loved working together. So it was such a fruitful experience. And the team was obviously a lot smaller because the magazine had shrunk so much. But I got experience that I probably wouldn't have had in a bigger team. So like my first week there, I was like going out, doing interviews. I was writing so much content, which the thing is that like I probably never written so much in one day in my life. But for the first time, it didn't bother me. Like I was working such a lot. I'd work overtime. And I suppose it was stressful, but it didn't upset me because I just enjoyed it so much. Like I wanted, and I had a very good digital editor also at that time who was like she listened to my ideas. She spoke with me. We just had a very good relationship, and it was different to the relationships with editors I've had before. And it was a very good experience, basically.
Yeah, no, that's like kind of the key, I think, to the journalistic process a lot of the time is just having an
Mm,
editor who you get along with and who you can pitch to and who actually like helps to improve you as a writer, because that doesn't always happen, unfortunately. So that's
yeah.
wonderful to hear. And I assume the experience that you had before, so you've into like as much as this was a lot more work than you're used to, you'd
Mm.
had experience interviewing people overseas and you'd done so much like entertainment writing beforehand. So did you feel going into the job that, you had it, or were you pretty stressed still because, it's Cosmo?
I was pretty stressed. Actually, like I hadn't done that much interviews because the jobs I'd done at Media 24 were mainly like writing, like pure writing, like research-based writing.
Okay.
So other than that, the free work that I used to do before, like I didn't have much. And interviewing was something that freaked me out because like as I said earlier, I'm extremely shy. So so like even before I became a journalist, I knew that this was going to be like my Achilles heel. Like I knew that like I interviewing would be the make or break for me, because I'm gonna freak out before, I'm gonna not know what to say, I'm gonna be terrible. And like that's always what went through my head. So So I was
That's me
extremely
like
freaked
10
out.
minutes before an interview, like every single time.
I was saying to my producer, I was like, all the podcast interviews are brought to you by Rescue Remedy. But,
Some
um,
yeah, some of these will be brought to you by brandy and coke. Some of these have been brought to you by weed. Like, no, definitely.
but yeah, yeah, I was really nervous, and especially like the first weekend, I had to go interview Ricky Rick, and
Oh wow, that is a big one. I've got him on my list. I still haven't done that one.
I was like, I went from nothing to this, and she's like, oh, like, sorry, this is late notice, but tomorrow can you go? You have to go meet Ricky. I'm like, oh my god, I was so freaked out, but I think that was like the deep end I had to be like shoved into.
Like that's great though because that puts you straight into it. So it's like you don't even have time to like really like freak out. Like obviously you've got like the one day to like freak out a bit about it, but then it's happening. Like you
Mm.
have to just be ready and prepared. And then also like now you're in it. So after that, did you find it got a bit easier?
Yes and no. Like, I think I was trying to prove myself, but it definitely got easier because I became more comfortable, within my team and within the role. And I honestly believe that they wanted the best from me. And, we all just cared about the product such a lot that, even when I do something wrong, like I would freak out, but they would work with me and say, like, okay, this is what you did wrong. This is what we will do for next time. And I felt very supported. So I think, especially by my like a digital editor, like my immediate manager, like she always had my back, which is something I didn't usually experience. But yeah, no, it was. I think yeah, it probably did get easier as it went on.
Do you have like any specific like tricks when it comes to like interviewing celebrities to try and break the ice, or do you approach like each interview like individually?
Definitely individually, but I like to be like over prepared. So even if I don't use all the questions that I have or all the things that I research, like if I'm prepared, I feel calmer going in,
Yeah.
and I can usually like gauge them better, because if I'm prepared, I think it leaves me more time to kind of like feel out how they feeling, or what makes them comfortable, what makes them uncomfortable, like look at body language. Because if I'm not prepared, I'm constantly thinking in my head, what must I do next, what can I say next, what, like that.
Yeah, when it's great to always just have that list of questions to go to. Like if you like
Yeah.
because that's a great thing about like interviews is they will go all over the show and like they
Mm,
can be these very organic things, but that is the one thing I've also learned. So, like preparation is everything. It's always have like those questions to go back to so that if you do have a moment in the conversation where things aren't flowing that well, you can
yeah.
go, okay, I know I've prepared here. I know some stuff about you that we can go back to and we can talk about.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's kind of your trick is just making sure that you go into the interview as prepared as possible.
Yeah. And like not all celebrities are there for good conversation. Some of them are just like you can see they're looking to tick off like something on their list. Like I have to do this interview today. So they just answer your questions as you answer it. It can be kind of uncomfortable. So if they're gonna come in with that attitude, I'm prepared for that. But if they're gonna come in ready to chat or, very forthcoming, then that's good anyway, because I've got the questions, and it doesn't matter then, but you don't know what you get.
Yeah, how do you deal with those different energies though? Because I know like some people, like some celebrities are like just totally chill, totally fine. They don't act like
Mm,
celebrities, and others are total prima donnas and like can be pretty closed off and like weird. And it's like, why did you take this interview? So how do you handle,
exactly.
yeah, that disparity and like what are the kind of situations you've been in? If you want to maybe share like not like actual like names or anything, but yeah, like just like some weird vibes, like when you've interviewed some famous people.
So the way I handle it is that if I have my questions and I know kind of the point of the interview, so I know interviews either to promote something or talk about something, I make sure I get that. So if you're there to talk about what you're promoting, or an award you just won or something like that, then I will ask those questions, make sure I have that information, and then you're good to go. That's fine. Like, I'm not going to push you to say anything you don't want to say. I'm not going to push you to talk more than you don't want, like you want to talk. So if it's for a written article, if I got the crux of the article, then I'm good. Then that's fine. I can write the flowery stuff around it. If it's like for a podcast or whatever, the listeners will be able to hear your attitude. So
Yeah.
I will leave that up for them to decide. Because I've listened to so many interviews where I can hear the person being interviewed standoffish, and then I'm just like, okay, can hear the host or the journalist is trying and they're not receiving anything. It reflects more on the celebrity than it does on the interviewer.
I'm with I'm with you there, but as an interviewer,
Yeah.
you're still like stressing out though because you're the one who's like got to
Mm,
put out this interview and you want it to be good. So I've had a few situations like that and like it's being recorded and you can feel the vibe is a little weird. And it's just like for me, it's like about
mm,
trying to just find something to talk about that they actually want to talk about, something that like gets them going. So it's like trying to pull from the bag of tricks of like their favorite things and then using that as like a little inlet into then getting into the other things. But like, yeah, when people are standoffish in the beginning, it can be such a stressful time just to like, especially for me, because I do these for an hour. Like that's kind of the
yeah.
promise to the audience. So it's like if we're not good in the first 5 minutes, it is going to be a long, long an awkward conversation. I'm glad it has like I've had some ones that go like a little awkward in the beginning, but they've all seemed to like smooth out as time goes on, and none have
Mm.
got too awkward in the middle. But you were gonna share a story there. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was gonna ask you, like, how do you find those facts? Like, how do you? Because I want to know, like, how to get these things out of people. Oh yeah, I do have one story, but it's like a South African celebrity, but it was also when I was at Cosmo, and she had just won a big award, and then they called us and they were like, "Do you want to do an interview with her?" And we were like, "Sure." So I had to write questions like in 15 minutes. So I wrote the question. She is like, it was a phone interview. She was not having it. She was just like, she was talking like, "Bleh." So even though I had to like transcribe it afterwards because it was a written thing, I did not know what she was saying most of the time. She was like, she shot down like 90% of my questions. I was like, you wanted this interview. Why are you being like this? And it was someone that I like really respected. Like I liked that person so much, and I was so disappointed. Um, yeah, but yeah, you live and you learn, I suppose.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest like disappointments of being in the entertainment industry behind the scenes of things. Like I've worked in various different roles and some people who, like I used to admire have definitely gone down in the rungs just with the ways they've treated either me or people I've been involved with or
Mm,
like just, responded in certain ways to things. And it's just like you're like, but like I thought you were cool, man. Like why are you actually like this? But I get it as well, like the whole being an artist thing and the whole celebrity thing does lead to a level of egotism that can make people
mm,
very self-important and very difficult to deal with if you're not like in that world and you're not really, for me at least, I'm not really willing to bow down to it. But I know like
mm.
like when you were at least working with Cosmo and stuff, like would you have to like deal with those like well not you would have to deal with those kinds of people, but like how are your editorial staff when it came to that? Like did they give you advice on how to handle them or were they just like, oh yeah, that guy's a dickhead, don't worry about it?
Yeah, the latter. I was very much that guy's a dickhead. I was I didn't get any tips. I don't think I did it as bad. Like I had it as badly as a lot of the others do. Like the fashion people always have like the
Oh
most
wow.
drama with celebrities. Because if a celebrity doesn't like the way they look in a picture, they're gonna blame the fashion people. Always. And then it's always causes crap and like so I haven't had to deal. I don't think like that one story I told you is probably the worst one. And mainly because I remember it because I like this person so much. But yeah, I haven't had too hectic of a time with celebrities. Maybe I just haven't met enough. But but like yeah, and I didn't get any like advice in how to deal with it. It was just like go in, deal with it, and that's it.
But I guess everyone kind of knows that like sometimes it's just like that with those people. But I wanted to actually get into your latest venture because today was the day that we're recording is a celebration of 1 year of the Crushing On podcast, the IGN Crushing On podcast. So congratulations, because most podcasts don't make it
Thank
past
you.
episode 2, and you've made it all the way like through a year. So that is genuinely like an amazing feat in the modern era of like, hey, let's start a podcast, like to actually
Yeah,
follow through and to have all the guests that you've had and to actually like achieve what you've achieved. I think it's truly impressive. So firstly, well done. And then secondly, how did it all start?
thank you. So I've been like a huge fan of podcasts for like the longest time. I think since like I've been listening to podcasts since like 2013, and I've listened to many, but I also did like the drama thing. Like I didn't think I could actually do a podcast. And like as it was going on, I was listening to more stuff. I like had a bit of an idea, and I think I was probably when I was at Media 24, but I just didn't have time to do it. And, it just like, and I also didn't really have the skill because, like, as creative as I am, and as like, I like to think of myself as an artist, but I'm not a nitty gritty type person. So I hate editing of any type, editing, writing, editing audio, editing video. I hate all that kind of things.
I will
So,
edit someone else's writing, like no problem. Like someone else's writing is amazing to edit. That is my favorite thing in the world to edit. But my own writing and my own like content, it's hell. It's absolute hell. So I'm with you.
yeah, no, it's like, oh, I know I should actually be doing this more, but yeah, no, I'm extremely terrible at it. But yes, I didn't really have the skills also. And then my best friend, we've been best friends since we were like 13. She's in the Netherlands. When she was in Cape Town, she studied music. And then she went over to the Netherlands and she was doing her master's in sound, specializing in
Oh, cool.
podcasts.
Oh, wow. You can do that? What do you mean? You could specialize
Yeah.
in podcasts. That's amazing. The future
Yeah.
is here.
Yeah, no, it is. Like she did a whole thesis on podcasts and stuff. And then she was making extra money like doing podcasts. And she hit me up and she's like, "Have you ever thought of starting a podcast?" And I was like, "Funny enough, I have, but I don't really want to do all the work." And she's like, "Well, I like doing the work, but I don't really have the content." So she's like, "Do you want to work on this?" And I was like, "Sure." And then it took like probably
That
another
is a
year because
match made
when I
in
was at
heaven.
Cosmo, exactly. Like when I was at Cosmo, I had zero time. So I just like, I just put it on the back burner. Like, sometimes I add an idea now and then. And then when I was Cosmo closed down, I had a lot more time on my hands. I was like, "Rebecca, do you want to start this up again?" And she's like, "I've been waiting." So I thought up some ideas and I got three of my friends to just like chat nonsense to me about what they were watching. And then we recorded 3 episodes. And yeah, it started from that. And then it went on. And it just got more and more people.
Well, yeah. So, what is the Crushing On podcast for people who haven't heard it? What is the whole idea behind it now? Because it's no longer just that. Because I see you get lots of different guests
Yeah.
on. I listened to like the one with Sluby Moya. Because like you mentioned you were getting someone from Isidingo on, and I said like, is it someone beginning a character name with an N? And you were like, no. But then like slightly later you got her, and I was so jealous because that's another name that's on my list. So how has it all evolved from 3 friends to that?
So as I was going on with the 3 friends, that was just like recommending, talking about shows that we liked. It actually started when The Bachelorette was announced, and I was still getting all these press releases because I have a blog that I don't really update, but I got these press releases from Mnet, and they were like, "Do you want to interview Gweniso, the Bachelorette?" And I was like, "Sure." And so I added like the interview with her, which was very short, to the end of one of my episodes with a friend. And then it did well. And then I just got more requests from like, "Oh, do you want to interview more and more people?" And then remember I told you I was terribly nervous about interviews, and I thought, this is a great way for me to sort of like exercise this muscle because I know I will lose it. And I'll be freaked out if I ever start get into another job where I have to interview people again. I'm going to be so nervous because I haven't exercised this muscle. So I was like, I should actually start interviewing people more. So our first season we did like long episodes. It was like some of them was an interview, some of them was just like people chatting about TV shows and movies and recommendations and music and that kind of thing. And then I just noticed the difference. Like there was a lot of pressure on like say people promoting things to kind of like fill the gap of people that are just recommending things. For season 2 we combined the two, and then the first half of the episode is a chat with a pop culture fan. So they could be known, they could be not known. They will talk about what interests them and like what they're watching, and we will discuss in detail about something that's kind of current in pop culture. And then the second half of the episode is an interview with a celebrity or an actor or whatever, or somebody who has something coming out soon. And then like that's more focused on what they have coming out, less on them as a person. So yeah, we're still transforming. I don't know what it will look like in season 3, but that's what it is now. So like our last episode, we had the influencer Akila Harron. She was actually at high school with me, and we studied film and media together. And she was talking about the films and the series and that kind of stuff that she watches and she likes. And then the second half of the episode, we spoke to Nico Penagio, the host of Survivor, and it was mostly just focused on Survivor. But yeah, it differs from episode. Like some of them have long conversations, some of them have short. Yeah.
So how do you set these interviews up? I know you mentioned that you get sent some press releases from various people that you've had contact with over the years because of your blog, because of News 24 and that. Is it just a matter of being on the right media list at this point, or do you still have to reach out to certain people that you want to approach?
Some of them are media list, but a lot of the times I reach out because you might
Okay.
be on the media list, but you might not be the specific media that they target, especially with podcasts. Because I mean, South African media do not target podcasts. They barely know they exist. There's like the very few
Oh,
that
I know.
do. So yeah, so sometimes I have to email people. I have to ask around who is the PR person for this, and be like, hi, I have this podcast. Could I possibly get an interview with this person? Sometimes I get no response. Sometimes I get a response. That has been like my experience most of the time. Sometimes
How
people
many
come to
how many
me.
times do you follow up?
I usually just follow up once. If they don't respond after that time, I'm like, okay, it's fine. I go on.
100%.
I mean,
That's my rule.
it's like I'm trying to my dream. Okay, not dream. I really want to get Kim Engelbrecht on the podcast because
Ooh,
she is like my dream. Like as a colored girl growing up, like seeing her on TV, she was like everything to me. And her
yeah, I had a
schedule is
total
just
crush on
so
her growing up.
hectic. You see, like me too. But getting her on the podcast is so difficult. And I've like tried so many times, and people are like, oh, I will message her agent, but she's busy filming this now or that. And I'm just like,
But see, but that's not the same as not getting a reply. Like, so that's the thing. If someone gets back to me, then we can keep the conversation going and we can keep the lines of communication open. But like, if I send you 2 emails and you don't get back to me to either email, I'm just like, cool, you don't want to do it. So cross your name off the list and I'll go,
mm,
down to the next person essentially. Because my ego, like I've mentioned earlier, I'm too sensitive. That rejection, I can't do it a third time, because then you're just a sucker for punishments, I think.
yeah. And also, like, why would you want somebody on there who doesn't really want to be there? So,
That's exactly it.
so yeah, I just like, yeah, follow up once. Sometimes not at all. If I like DM somebody and they don't reply to that DM, I'm like, you saw this DM. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna respond again. I'll just go into the next person. No.
Yeah, as long as you don't do the thing that a lot of people do with me and they just DM saying, "Hey," or "How are you?" It's just like, yo, I'm just, I know not to reply to these. Like I've learned my lesson. This is gonna be half an hour of nothingness. We're gonna get sucked into. Oh, but that's dope though. That like you're still the one actually reaching out and doing that groundwork because it allows you to have a lot more control, I guess. And it's not like because I thought that maybe you had a bit more clout, with the media companies and that, just noticing some of your
Mm.
guests, like I figured that maybe there was a bit more of a symbiotic like thing going on there. But then I guess, yeah, like there's only so far that they care about when it does come to podcasts. So you do have to do that extra legwork.
there are some like very forward thinking like PR people who
Like I
have
know
come to me
Netflix are good
first.
with it.
Yeah, I know they are pretty good. And there's some others that have been like, hey, do you want to interview this person? I've been noticing like this is literally over the last week. Like I've gotten 2 emails from like American publicists trying
Ooh,
to promote their people, but it's like it'll be like maybe a South African actor in the US or something like that. But like American publicists know the value of podcasts. So
well, yeah.
it's easier to understand why they would be interested than here in South Africa where they still pitch stuff to like magazines whose circulation is so low. But that'll
And
be
you'd
maybe the
know.
first protocol.
Yeah, it's so strange how like so much of the media is still targeted towards print and like so
Mm,
much of publicity at least is still targeted towards print. You know, a lot of PR agencies are still like focusing on the newspapers and those sorts of things when things have evolved so much and like the people that are in touch with it and who do understand that hey, there is different kinds of media are the ones who are able to at least get their clients, you know, seen and heard because no one reads anymore, but people actually do, at least from my experience, listen to podcasts and engage with them and get a
yeah.
lot out of them because it's someone speaking in their own voice. It's not even through a filter. When you write about someone, it's always through this lens of yourself. You know, it's always through your viewpoint and ideas that you want to get across about those people for the audience. But with podcasting, you're giving them an opportunity to actually say, no, this is who I am and this is what I think.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just think that because for me, like I've gotten into things and enjoyed things so much more from listening to podcasts. Like I watch obviously a lot of talk shows and YouTube videos and stuff, but I forget those things quickly. But when you're having like I'm sure you're a fan of Mark Maron. Are you?
Yes, he's like my
Yeah.
daddy. Like,
Yeah, so I love Mark Maron too. And like when Nicole Kidman is on there and she's talking for an hour about her
oh, that
life,
was
but she
such
also
a
talks
good
about
interview.
yes. And then she's also talking about the show and why she's doing the show. I'm more likely to check out that show because she has spoken so passionately and in depth about it. And I almost feel like I was sitting with Nicole for an hour. Whereas when I'm watching a 5 minute segment on a TV show, like I'll be like, oh, that sounds cool. It's a new TV show with Nicole Kidman. But I don't know much else. And like I will forget about that in probably a day.
And you also know they've done like 100 of those interviews in that day. They've just been sitting there in those chairs
Yeah.
as journalists come in and out asking them the same questions over and over and over again. So the podcasting format gives them like just so much more freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's essentially what I mean. Mark Maron is probably my first entry into podcasting, and for me, it's always been
Same.
like the ideal.
You and me both.
His interview style is so good because it doesn't feel like they are being interviewed. It feels like a conversation. And the problem here is that we, like for me personally, I get such a little time with the people that I'm interviewing, if they're not like the fans, like the celebrities, that sometimes it does end up being like a TV show thing. And sometimes
Uh,
there's no PR people around. It's just me and them, and we can talk for a long time and I can get they can get comfortable. And I feel like that is the ideal. And I hope that one day South Africa could get to a point where a lot more celebrities and a lot more PR people trust podcasting and trust this different style of doing things. But South Africa
well, I think you're
celebrities don't have
earning that
publicists.
though. So, what do you mean South
Thank you.
African celebrities don't have publicists?
They don't have publicists. Like there's very few of them that do, and they'll have
My inbox
like
says
maybe like
differently.
Bonang.
Well, the musicians at least. A lot of musicians have PR and publicists at least.
Because I mostly just deal with like agents or like the PR people from like DSTV or Netflix or Showmax. Like those people are organizing
That's
the
really
interviews,
interesting.
not like a lot of the times, like if I have to do interviews and stuff with people for like a print thing, I have to like DM them personally. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why are they not publicists making sure that they are, making the rounds and getting interviewed by people?
That's so
But
crazy. I
that's
mean, I
just my
know like with
experience.
yeah, I know with like the music scene at least, like I know there's quite a few publicists, who I know I can chat to if I want to get the interview. At this point, I can often just chat to the musician myself, but like,
Mm,
that's crazy to me to hear that actors and celebrities don't have like that level of PR. But I guess if you're working with an agent, they're doing the more important work there. And I guess I don't know, publicity is so important, but I don't know. People have different priorities, I guess. I genuinely that does baffle me that it's not more of a important thing in these people's lives because, as I'm sure you know, and as I'm sure many people know, the media is how you get work as an actor or an actress or a
mm.
musician or someone in the public eye. It's like the more you're in the media, the more people will want to book you because you're in the media a lot, and so they will be talking about the thing that you're doing. So that is so strange to me.
Yeah, I don't know, but hopefully it'll change as they get, as the media streams change. I think the way publicity is done will change.
Well, I was going to say, how do you feel with the positioning of your podcast at this point in time? Because, like you say, things are actually changing within the media landscape. And yours is one of the few entertainment and celebrity based podcasts that actually manages to get, some of these people onto the podcast. Like, I haven't seen too many others out there in South Africa that are doing what you're doing. So, do you feel like you're well positioned for the future?
Um, I don't know. Like, I think the biggest experience I've had in the media industry is that, you don't specifically know where it's going to go. But
Sure.
I do think podcasting's on the rise. Like, I've read so many articles about the podcasting boom in South Africa. But I mean, and I think you
I've
know
read the
this too, but
articles,
like,
but I haven't necessarily seen the stats.
yeah, no, exactly. I was listening to that Mesh startup guy on
Oh
some
yeah.
other podcast where he was talking about the main thing for us as podcasts is that we got to get more people listening to podcasts. Because, like, I know this from my own experience. Like, I started listening to Mark Maron, then I started listening to another one, and then another one, and then another one. And once you get into the habit of listening to podcasts, you're more likely to try out new things, which is why where if like one of us succeeds, I think we all succeed. So I do think that, more people should be listening to podcasts, more people should be making podcasts. I hope that, what's IGN Crashing On is in a good position for the future. I think I've invested enough time and money into this for it to be able to do well. I hope so. My bank account hopes so. But no, but I do think it is. And I do hope that if I'm getting more trust from PR people, that other podcasts will also get more trust from PR people. So that if like they're like, okay, it worked with her with this podcast, maybe we should try instead of doing like five print publications, three online and one podcast. Maybe we should do three podcasts and it will just open up the door for more people.
And that's one of those things that also builds within itself because you've got more and more people of name value essentially coming onto podcasts. So that then makes the audience go, oh, what a
I
podcast.
think
Let
I've
me
had
actually check this out. Okay, so we got a little disconnected there thanks to South Africa's wonderful internet infrastructure, which makes working in a pandemic so much easier. If it's not AirScarb, it's something else.
Yeah.
But we were discussing how podcasting at the moment is experiencing a bit of a boom. At least, like, there's a lot more podcasts being produced, and the value in more people, coming on board, listening to one podcast that they might listen to another. And that's why personally I've got like zero issues or jealousy or anything towards anyone else starting a podcast. I am forever telling people, yo, you should start a podcast because
Hmm.
in my mind, the idea is if they do, they can, bring people to their podcast, and whether or not they carry on, that's now new people that have listened to podcasts and are like, cool, let me maybe check out some other vibes in South Africa. And it slowly but surely does build the community. That's why, like, I love your podcast because I do think it's something fresh and it's something different that offers people in South Africa, their own local space for these sorts of things when they're not necessarily there. You can listen to a million different podcasts. You can get tons of information on international, celebrities and actors and artists, but localizing it, I think, just adds so much more value to the conversation, I guess.
Like I feel the same way. I'm just like I'm so happy for people to start podcasts and do their thing because I also am of the belief that everyone, whether you do something or not, your own take is unique. So you're always going to come from a different perspective. You are a comedian doing a podcast in South Africa, but like if you look, like in America, there's like 50,000 comedians doing podcasts, but all of them are different. You will listen to the ones that you prefer, and that's okay, because the more comedians that do, that's okay, but people are always going to listen to what they prefer. So like, it's better than nobody listening to anything. And I think that first hurdle of putting on a podcast, like I don't know why people are so scared of podcasts, but
Because they
like
sound
they
like
don't know.
audiobooks. Like that's the problem. People are worried that it's going to be like an audiobook and they're going to like, yeah, like that's what I think the problem might be. It's just this weird like thing, or it's like talk radio.
Yeah. I think my problem is that like I was a fan of talk radio, but I
Same.
always thought of it as like I like when I'm listening to the radio, I hate when I don't hear what I want to hear. So I hate if I don't like the DJ, or the DJ is talking about something that does not interest me, or I don't like the music, which is probably why I don't really listen to radio or only listen to like specific DJs, because I want to hear what I want to hear. So with podcasts, it gives me that opportunity. If I want to listen to history things the entire day, that's what I will listen to. And I have that option. I can curate my own listening experience, and I can learn so much from it. And that's what I enjoy about it. That's what it gives an opportunity for people, like curate what you listen to.
Yeah, it allows just a much more personal experience, and that's,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, like I know my podcast, but that's also the thing. Everyone's podcast list is going to be so different to everyone else's. You find your unique little niches that you enjoy. But one of the things I wanted to ask you a little earlier, and we're running out of time here, so I'm going to ask it now, was how did the IGN thing come about? Because partnering up with a media company is pretty useful when it comes to these sorts of things. So how did that happen?
So IGN Africa it's quite a small company within South Africa,
A big
and
international brand though, like
yeah.
IGN.
So there's a company here that license it, and they've been wanting to start their own podcast, but because they don't have the big team, the editor was a listener of my podcast, and he enjoyed it, and he really wanted to go into entertainment. Like I feel like they're still going to start like a gaming one, but they wanted to have like for the entertainment section, they wanted an entertainment podcast, and he thought easier than creating his own one is to just sort of like license our one. And initially I was a bit skeptical because, as an artist, you want to sort of have control and own your own content. That's something I learned from Conan O'Brien. I'm like a diehard Conan O'Brien fan. But is everything that he has made, he owns the rights to.
Yeah.
And when I spoke to IGN, they were like, "We are willing to let you keep the rights if you don't feel comfortable with us within a year, whatever. You can leave when you want to." And it was a partnership that worked out well for both of us. So it really just came from the editor was a listener of the podcast, and it was a good fit for him. And I think for us, like when I first started, it was a very female. Our listenership was very female because my first few guests were female, and I came from Cosmo, and I think
And you also
I
focus on
have
The
that kind of,
Bachelor, those sorts of things.
yeah, and like I had that kind of energy also, like a very like girly energy. And what IGN has given is that it's allowed more men, I feel, to listen to the podcast, and for us to diversify our content a lot more. And in the end, it's brought more women to their page to see kind of what because they more focus on genre and that sort of thing, which is
Okay.
weird because I'm like a huge genre fan. So I think that because they were seen as more of a masculine-esque site, and that's not what they are. So it allowed us to leverage off each other. And right now it's just mainly like a partnership at the moment. But yeah, it's been good.
Oh, that's great. Like it's rare to hear like those sorts of stories actually happening, and it is one of those things. I think like the thing that I've picked up about your life and your career, it is that thing of preparation meeting opportunity. You haven't always been at the right place at the right time, but when the right times have come along, like you've been prepared because I guess you haven't been at the right place at the right time sometimes.
Yeah.
You've managed to like practice and get yourself, because that's the thing. You started the podcast. It wasn't like you approached IGN or IGN approached you. It was like you had the podcast there, and then the things started happening. So and I think that's been the whole vibe you've been telling me. It's like things weren't necessarily happening, so you created stuff and pushed it forward, and now you're still in a bit of a bind, I guess, because we're at a pandemic, but you've managed to pull things together quite remarkably. Like genuinely, I'm a fan. Like I genuinely am, because I just think your output is inspiring. It is something that other people can take note of and follow along, like do similar things and like put that work in the same way that you've put the work in. Like I think it can lead to a lot of success.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but it has really been that. It's like if things aren't happening for me, I'm gonna find some way to do it myself, just see if I can practice. So like the newsletter started just because I wanted to practice feature writing. And then I was approached by a editor of an entertainment site that does mostly feature writing. And they were like, would you be a contributor? And I was like, yes, thank you. I've been practicing for this. So yeah, it's really like if you're not getting what you want right now, make it happen for yourself. It doesn't have to be amazing. When I was writing my blog, I probably get like 2 readers and that's it. But I was practicing and I was trying to learn more. I was making contacts. I was putting myself out there because that's the scariest part. Like putting yourself out there is terrifying. I mean, I don't think I'm anywhere near the end yet, but it's worked out for me so far, I would say.
And where do you see it going from here, or where do you want it to go from here?
I mean, I don't know. Like if you had asked me
That's
this,
the
like
correct answer. Like, because a year ago, yeah, very different story. Well, a year and a half ago,
yeah, like if
very
you'd asked
different
me this
story.
10 years ago, I'd be like, I want to be an editor of a magazine. That's what I want. But now magazines don't exist anymore. So, I mean,
Your dream
for
job doesn't
me, I
exist yet.
don't know. I think I just like being a pop culture critic. Like that's what I love. Wherever that takes me, I would love to write my own TV show one day. That's what I would love to do. Wherever life goes, I'm willing to follow it.
Cool. Well, I wish you luck in not knowing where you're going and just winging it, because that is 100% my plan. I got asked like the other day on this talk that I was doing. Like I was a part of a panel discussion, and the one guy asked me like,
Mm.
what's your 5-year plan? And I was like, I do not have one anymore. Like I had one, like, and then the pandemic hit, so then everything that like I was planning towards just collapsed, and it was like, cool. I guess what we're doing now is things we enjoy until we no longer enjoy them, and whatever that leads
Yeah,
to, that's yeah, that's where it goes. Because I am not dealing with that disappointments again.
that's actually whatever we enjoy until we enjoy it no more is the perfect line.
Yeah, although I guess that also could lead you to an opium den. So, you know,
Either or.
either or. Yeah, I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been so great getting to actually know you, getting to know the person. Because, yeah, it's been fun listening. I've listened to like a handful of your podcasts, and I've really enjoyed what I've listened to. And yeah, I read your newsletter. I check out some of your opinions on some things, because you put me onto stuff, and I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. This means a lot. Thank you so much.
Cool, no worries. If people want to find you on the internet, where can they do that?
At Caryn Welby's with an S on Twitter and at Caryn Welby without the S on Instagram. That's
Cool.
where you can find me.
And if people want to find
And
your
the
work, they
podcast.
can check the link tree that's on your Twitter, which
Yes,
is
yes.
scarily intimidating when you click it open.
uh, I'm sorry. I'm very pedantic about updating it, which stresses me out. But yeah, check out my link tree.
Cool.